One of the things that I do towards the end of each year is a big review of my social media posts and what has been the best performing, what has been the worst performing, so that I can carry any lessons over to the following year. Given that we are at the end of 2025 now, I thought I'd share with you in this episode what are my top performing posts in 2025 and what they tell you about social media and strategy moving forward. This is episode number 498 of the Heart Centered Business podcast, which means you can find all the relevant links and the show notes of today's episode over at tashcorbin.com/498. Let's dive into this one. Hello, I'm Tash Corbin, a business strategist and mentor based on the Sunshine Coast in Australia. The mission of this podcast is to help heart-centered entrepreneurs to make more money, and in doing so, change the world for the better. This podcast was recorded on the lands of the Gubbi Gubbi and Jinnaburra people. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. Before I share my top performing posts with you, I'd love to ask the question, do you actually review your top performing posts as well as your lowest performing posts? In my business, my beautiful assistant Dee Dee collects the top 10 and bottom 3 posts from my Facebook page every single month. My Facebook page is my primary social platform, and so that's why I particularly focus on that as the post space where I want to assess where my highest and lowest performing posts are. And it is very insightful, but not necessarily for micro analysis. So I don't look at those reports every single month. If I was to look at them every single month, I would overanalyze what the top performing posts were, what the bottom performing posts were, and it would then probably lend towards me overthinking it, second guessing myself, and perhaps stopping doing posts that are overall fairly decent in terms of performance, but may have just had an off month. So I much rather looking at this in a longer term review format. So I will review them in my quarterly planning just to see if there are any obvious patterns or themes or trends. But where I really dive into my top and bottom performing posts is in my end of year review and my setting up my plan for the following year. So I wanted to come and share with you what are the 8 types of posts that generally have been best performing across the board for 2025 and what we can learn from each of those post types. So let's dive in with the first one, which is yes ladders. So a yes ladder is any post where in order to access something either free or paid, people need to comment on the post to get the instructions or details. I use yes ladders very sparingly. Generally, it's when I've got a new free resource that might be coming out, particularly a webinar, and I will do a post before it's ready for people to register to just say, this is what the next free event is going to be. If you'd like me to send you the registration details when they're ready, then just comment and let me know in the post below. And so the reason why I do that is because, number one, I am able to then direct message the people who say yes and let them know the details to register. Number 2, we can see what the conversion rate is once we do send the links to people. But number 3, it is a little bit of a self-management strategy as well, because once I do that post, I have 7 days to send through the messages via the message function on the page, and then I lose that option. And so it then is a good time sensitive thing for me to get that registration page ready and set up. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to DM the people who've asked for it. So if you're unaware, on Facebook pages in particular, if someone comments on your post, there will be 3 options for the first 7 days: like, reply, or message. that message function disappears after that 7 days. So I do use the yes ladder option very sparingly, but when I do, they still work brilliantly. And overall, yes ladders were the most commonly appearing post in my top 10 when I used them. In 2025, for example, I used a yes ladder 11 times. So there are 11 posts that I did on social media that were yes ladders for a free resource. So those posts tend to do very well. And as you can see, I do use them very sparingly. So that's the yes ladder. Now, also, I will say, I know that that kind of post is used quite consistently on Instagram using the ManyChat function. I think that works on Facebook pages as well. I don't use any bots when it comes to my social media whatsoever. I don't have an auto reply. I don't have a word triggered auto responder. I don't use ManyChat. I don't do any of that. The reason for me not to do that is, number one, I hate as a user being messaged by a bot, especially where it's pretending to be a human. And then I discover after a few conversations back and forth that it is actually just a bot message, or it's obvious that it's a bot message because it replies so instantly. So I don't love those as a user. I don't love those as an audience member, and therefore I don't use them as a content creator. The other reason why I don't use them is because I don't need to. And at this point in time in my business, the number of people who comment on a yes ladder is generally 30, sometimes 50 people. And it's so easy for me to go and send those messages personally. Sometimes my team will help out as well. And I know a lot of the people who end up responding, and so it would be weird for me not to personalize my message to them, or it would be weird for me to have a bot chatting to that person because I know them. And so because of the relationship that I have with my audience, because of my desire to want to have those conversations, because I use DM messaging a lot in that lead generation, in asking qualifying questions, I just feel like it would be quite silly of me to then outsource that to an automation that isn't going to do as effective of a job at that conversation as I would, and then also may send a very generic message to someone who didn't actually want that message. And actually, this has happened to me with a couple of people that I follow, and I've talked about this on a previous podcast episode, where I was following someone, I love their work and I want to cheer them on, but I can't comment on any of their social media posts without triggering a bunch of spam from their ManyChat bot, because they've set it up so that certain keywords are the prompt to get me a free resource. So I'll use different words because I don't want anyone to think it's them. So let's pretend that it's an AI create account or something along those lines. And so if I was to use the word ChatGPT, just in a comment to say, oh, I'm so grateful for the way that you teach us about ChatGPT, then it would send me a DM to offer me the free ChatGPT resource, but I didn't actually respond to the post that was asking me if I wanted the resource. I was just replying to something else. And so there are a few people that I follow where I've previously commented something, like put a really thoughtful comment into a post on their socials, mostly to cheer them on, but also to say thank you for a piece of advice or to recommend them. And because I've used 4 of their trigger words for their ManyChat, I've ended up with 4 DMs straight away offering me links and promos and all sorts of things that I didn't actually want. I was just providing a meaningful comment. So if you do want to use those types of tools, I would definitely recommend that you don't have the trigger words as words that your audience might use when they're asking you questions or meaningfully commenting on your socials either. And if there is a way to ensure that people don't get multiple messages all within the same 1 minute, I would definitely recommend that setting. But as someone who's never actually played with ManyChat, nor have I had the inclination to, I'm not sure if that's available. So in summary, for the first one, yes, ladders are my highest performing posts over the year. As I said, I've only done 11 of them. So they're sparingly used, but they still work brilliantly. The second highest performing posts overall were viral reels. But I will say that whilst a couple of them had multi-millions of views, they weren't related to my business. And so in terms of performance, they haven't contributed to the growth of my business in any way, really, other than a couple of the following reels did quite well in terms of reach, but the original viral ones didn't get me any new followers. I think I got 6 new followers from over 1 million views on a reel, and also 5 of those 6 were not my ideal clients. I went and had a little look at my new followers. So there were 2 posts that were more aligned to my business. So one was about being ADHD, and the other one was a planning productivity type of message. So those 2 did the best this year, and they actually generated followers who are business owners. I can see that in my new followers. But again, I would say out of 2.5 million views on the ADHD one, I would have got 20 to 30 new followers who were aligned in terms of at least being business owners. Those viral reels I actually created and shared on Instagram, and then they were shared over to my Facebook page. And I don't always share from Instagram over to my Facebook page. I generally try and turn it off because most of the time the reels that I'm sharing are just funny or being on trend with something, and more just because I like playing with them. I don't necessarily do it for the business results or the business growth. I will play with reels a bit more consistently on Instagram in 2026, but at the moment, because Facebook is still my primary social platform, that's just in my spare time, having a little play around, just for funsies. I do sometimes see those trending reels and get excited about doing my own version of it. But overall, in regards to the time and energy that they take versus the return, I would say it's still not really worth my time doing those. So if I was pressed for time in doing my social content, reels would be the first thing that I would eliminate because it's just not a priority for me, and it just does not generate the same level of engagement, and especially not the same level of lead generation as my static posts and other posts do. The third highest performing post was random life events or random life updates from me personally. And I don't think this one is any surprise. What it tells me is that people want to connect with humans on social media. Social media is social after all. So I would recommend not necessarily creating a feeling that you must disclose and divulge every single thing that happens to you, but just don't underestimate the extent to which we appreciate hearing about what's going on for you in your world. And so even if it's just once or twice a month, providing a little update on what you're doing behind the scenes or an insight into something that you're enjoying or what you're up to, or if something is going on behind the scenes that might impact your ability to respond to emails quickly, people appreciate hearing the human side. And that's actually reflected in all of my content. If I ever send an email or have a podcast that has some personal reflection or an update on what's happening for me behind the scenes, they are the ones that I get the most response to, I get the most messages about, and people are very grateful to hear both the good and the bad that is happening for me in my personal life behind the scenes, particularly where it impacts on my business. So I'm not saying that we need to set a goal to divulge every single personal insight on the internet, because I don't do that whatsoever. I'm not also saying that we want to be whinging a lot of the time or sharing a lot of drama, but I do think that if we reflect on the fact that humans are on social media to connect with other humans, then it's a priority to have that human element in your content strategy. And I will continue to share more about what is going on for me behind the scenes and, some of those challenges and also those wins in my personal life and in my business as well. And I do want to say challenges and wins, because some of those updates that have had the most engagement have been successes. It hasn't always been that something has gone wrong. I did have quite a few things go wrong in 2025. Thank you so much to the year of the snake and the 9-year for highlighting all the areas and things that needed to be let go of. Love it. But I'm ready for a fresh start in 2026 and looking forward to far more positive updates for you in 2026. Number 4 in my top performing posts are posts about stationery. And I love this. It tells me who my people are. It tells me exactly the types of things that we get excited about. And what does it tell us in relation to your social strategy and what might actually be effective for you moving forward? Well, people love a good unboxing, right? They love to see what other people are buying. And my stationery posts weren't necessarily videos. There were a couple that were videos that had really good engagement. But in most cases, it was a photo of a new pencil case, or it was a photo of a pen that I've been using for 4 years and I needed to get a new refill for it. And I shared a post about, I love this pen so much. I love that I can just refill it. When you find a pen that's got the right feel in your hand, it's so powerful. So, those types of things, you might think, wow, that's so vapid, right? That's so pointless. But connecting with people over the little things that we love and adore is not pointless. That's socializing. That's social media. And I think a lot of the time when it comes to Facebook posts, I am considering what would be the types of things I would say to people if they were coming to my house, or if I was catching up with them over a coffee, or if we were getting together on a little mini retreat together, or to do some co-working. What would be my little update in the break? And what would I want to show you or tell you or share with you? And if I do that on my Facebook page, it gets engagement and it gets good reach. So it tells me we love to see what people are buying. I would encourage you, if there are certain things that you get very excited about, especially if it's something that's a physical product and you can take photos of it. But people love a little unboxing. People love to know what types of tools you're using. I've even seen people sharing about, what are the tools and systems that they're using online, or what are their favorite apps on their phone, or what are the ways that they use their phone that maybe people don't even realize that functionality is available to you. And it gets so much engagement. We actually saw that in the Heart-Centered group recently, where someone shared that they have settings on their phone so that, for example, whenever they leave the house, it pops up a little reminder message, or whenever they do a certain thing on an app, it pops something up for them. Now, I'm not techie enough to know how to do half of those things, but so many people were commenting saying, I had no idea that my phone could do this. I'm going to go and explore this now. And that's really exciting for people. They want to know what you're using, how you're using it, if there's anything that can save them time, or if there's anything that can bring them joy, if there's anything that can be a delicious little treat. If you love a beautiful, organic something or other treat and it's your thing, make sure you share about that, because we do love to get that little pervy look behind the scenes again at what the types of things are that you are using or that you are loving. Number 5 is step-by-steps or simple one-off tasks that I encourage people to take. So for me, it's the practical advice that tends to do the best when I am sharing on social media. Inspirational quotes just fail miserably in my socials. I do reattempt them here and there, but they just do not do very well at all. I think we're just so used to seeing inspo quote after inspo quote that it's just like noise now these days. Maybe it's specific to my audience, I don't really know. But the more that I give people step-by-step instructions on how to do something, or 3 questions to ask before they do something, or a simple task, so updating their signature block, or go and review your Work With Me page and make sure that it's the current version of your messaging. You know, those types of things where it's just a little one-off, go and do this. This would be really helpful for you to do this right now. People seem to gravitate towards that and they engage with that very well. So it does quite well in terms of reach. So have a think about, are there some more practical things you could advise people on? Are there some more step-by-step things that you could give short and sweet instructions, some practical advice, even if you have a very esoteric business? When you are nice and specific with your niche, I find that there's still lots and lots of opportunity to give that very practical advice, that short and sweet advice as well. Now, number 6 was images with my business friends, especially where I tagged them in the post. So when I go to events, when I catch up with people, when I host the Sunshine Coast meetups, although I'm terrible at taking photos at those, I think we had 10 Sunshine Coast meetups this year and I took photos of 3 of them. Terrible form, Tash. I will work on that next year. But wherever I have caught up with someone, I try and take a photo. When I go to an event, I try and take photos and share it straight away. Sometimes I'm sharing it 2 or 3 weeks later because I don't actually have the time or the inclination to do it while I'm there, and I'm just too busy enjoying myself. I am an extrovert / connector, so I am definitely someone who gets caught up in the conversation rather than capturing the moment. I also find, and this is a big one that I need to remind myself of in 2026, I get a bit perfectionist about creating a fancy reel out of things, but reels aren't my primary platform strategy. And so I should just share a bunch of photos. And I need to remind myself over and over again that that is the case. I even went to a couple of events in late November, early December, where I forgot to take photos. I'd only taken video content because I had intended to put some lovely music over it and share that as a reel, because the sound is just the noise of the event or me saying something that's completely irrelevant. And so I need something else as the audio for it. So therefore I have to share it as a reel. I can't just share that on socials. And that was a big lesson for me, to make sure I snap some photos, because I'm far more likely to share the photos quickly. And also in photos, I'm tagging the relevant people who are in the photo with me. So remembering to take lots of selfies and to tag my friends, high on the agenda for 2026. If we are at any events together in 2026, please, please, please remind me to take selfies and say, Tash, make sure you tag me when you share it. Let's share it now, because I'm far more likely to do that, and that you're doing me a favor, right? You're not asking that because you want me to grow your audience. It will grow your audience and it will often get you lots of more reach on your socials. But if you remind me to do that, it's also doing me a favor. So please, if we do catch up in real life, do me a favor and remind me to take a photo and to share it straight away and tag you. I would even say for online events. So I tend to be terrible at this as well. So this is on my plans for 2026. When I'm facilitating group events and just saying to people on Zoom, hey, I'm going to take a screenshot of us all on camera now. So if you want to be on it, pop your camera on. If you don't want to, pop your camera off. 3, 2, 1, take the screenshot, share it on socials straight away. So doing more of that is high on the cards for me. Now, part of the reason why I want to do that more is not just because it's going to grow my reach, but it also grows my audience, and it helps the people that I'm with. And so I can grow my network, but I can also help other people grow their network. And I love that about social media. And I love that about going to in-person events and even online events as well. And so I'm going to really try and be better at it in 2026, because seeing how much that has featured in my top 10 posts each month has really given me the data and the nudge for me to remember to do that a little more. All right, so number 7, which is a little bit different to the life events and life updates that was third, is behind the scenes specifically in my business. And I do think that when I say, we love to be a bit pervy, I mean it in a good way, right? We really do love to see behind the scenes of people's experiences. And especially as a business owner myself who works with other business owners, I know that people appreciate getting to see what's going on behind the scenes in my business. And so it's another component of being human and being on social media to be social. And if we were catching up for coffee in real life and you said, oh, what's going on with your business? I would share updates like that so much more readily than I think to share them on socials. And so again, I'm going to really land that for 2026 in my plans to remember that this is like us catching up in real life. Us socializing on Facebook is socializing. It's just the online version. And so more of the behind the scenes insights, I think, will make a difference to the growth of the audience and the reach that I'm getting with my Facebook page. Again, I do see that as well in my emails and podcasts where I'm sharing behind the scenes. There tends to be a higher viewership, especially in the early first release week of a new podcast. And so I will continue to do podcasts like this one, where I'm sharing behind the scenes of what posts did I share this year that got the most reach. And a hot tip for those of you who do like getting to know behind the scenes of my business, if you go to the show notes of today's episode, tashcorbin.com/498, and have a look at underneath the title of the podcast episode, you'll see the categories that it relates to. And this is a behind the scenes podcast. So if you click behind the scenes, you will actually have all of my podcasts filtered so that you're only getting the ones that have a behind the scenes component to them. So that's a nice little quick way to access those behind the scenes podcasts and filter that way. You can filter by all those different categories that I have in there. And then the final one, the 8th highest top performing post that I can see in those trends and patterns throughout 2025 is where I run special events and special offers. So I definitely see that I have made the algorithm my bestie rather than being beholden to the algorithm and trying to trick it, because I have been consistent in my promo posts over the months of the year. Now, I've definitely had some quiet periods where things fell over with social posting this year, but I can still, to this day, share a post, have a link to a promo, and its reach is not at all negatively impacted compared to other posts of mine, especially if that post gets engagement early. And so I love that over the years, I haven't shied away from including links in my posts. I haven't done the make sure you put the link in the comments, any of that kind of stuff. I'm very consistent at training the algorithm to know that when I share links in my posts, people love those posts, and therefore those posts still should get lots of reach as well. And even though those posts are sending people away from Facebook a lot of the time, they're still performing quite well compared to other posts. Now, of course, if I was to play the trickery game here and there and not have the link in the post and put the link in the comments, I'm sure there would be a little spike. But that's not what I'm chasing. I'm not here for a short-term spike in reach on a promo and then sacrificing the future reach of future promos. That's not what I'm here to do. I am here for the marathon of business ownership and business growth. I'm here for the long haul. I've created a business that I can see myself running for the next 30 years very happily. And so I'm not going to sacrifice my long-term algorithm relationship for the sake of tricking the algorithm here and there. And I just find the more that you trick the algorithm and the more that you try and do those things that get you the short-term reach, the less you've got that reach long-term. The more that you have to keep following those rules and doing those tricks. And I just don't have the inclination nor the energy to forevermore have to follow a set of 15 different tricks that I have to apply to every single post just to get the same reach that I would get if I just trained the algorithm that my content is really useful to my audience and really highly engaging. And so I would love to share that as a takeaway of what it tells you about my social strategy and as inspo and potentially encouragement for you to do the same. The last thing I want is for you to feel like to post on social media and get any kind of traction with it, you have to tie yourself in knots, creating the perfect post with the perfect strategy and the perfect structure. I mean, that's the whole point of why I do the imperfect post project with people in my planning system, in the takeoff program, in the accelerator, is because I want to show people how much more they achieve with their socials when they batch up a bunch of imperfect but slightly optimized posts and just get them out there, let them do their job so you can focus your time and energy and attention on things that are more likely to generate leads and sales. Because the random things that you post on social media, the posts that you put out on your primary social platform are a 1%er compared to the other things that you can be doing to generate leads and make sales. And it feels like it's this magical thing, but at the end of the day, it's very simple and straightforward. It is understanding the role that your social posts play in the broader strategy of attracting leads and making sales, and recognizing that on their own, they cannot do all of the heavy lifting, and that if they are a 1%er, then spending 80% of your day thinking about reworking, rewriting, re-recording posts for social media is a waste of your time. It's a misallocation of time and energy. So instead, I would encourage you to hear what I'm saying about my top performing posts. Think about how you might make some little optimization tweaks to the posts that you're planning to put on socials, or your approach and your strategy for socials in 2026, and then just get it done. Done is better than perfect. They cannot do their job if they don't exist. Consistent, ongoing content on social media is far more effective than flash and crash. I see so many people set themselves up with these big intentions in the new year. They're doing 3 posts a day for the first 15 days of the year. They're nothing for 6 weeks and they've disappeared. That is far more damaging to your algorithm than including a link in a post here and there. And that's the thing I think people don't really understand until they see it for themselves with evidence of what they're doing on socials. And if you're just posting on socials and you're not doing the other 99% of the heavy lifting, then those social posts are going to have no chance. So get them done, get them out there, and move on to those higher performing strategies for generating leads and making sales in your business. All right, so I think overall, if I was to summarize, what do my top performing posts tell you about social strategy for 2026 and what happened in 2025? I think I bring it down to 3 H's. And the 3 H's are: I'm here, right? I'm present on social media. When people comment on my socials, I'm commenting back. When people say yes to yes ladders, I'm sending them DMs. When people DM me, I'm replying. When I'm asking people for their questions and they give me their questions, I answer their questions. I'm present. I'm here. And it might be that I'm only here for 2 15-minute check-ins a day or 2 15-minute check-ins 4 days a week, right? I'm not on social media every day. I'm not checking my social media every day, but it is a good use of my time when I've got my consistent posts going out to be present. So I'm here. I think that a lot of people would recognize that if they think about their interactions and engagement with me on social media. It definitely feels like Tash is here, and I am. So I'm here. I'm human. So I am sharing photos of myself. Some are professional photos. Some are just random selfies. Some are me in business. Some are me out in my personal life. I'm sharing insights about what's going on with my dog. I'm sharing insights about what's going on behind the scenes. So I'm here. I'm human. And the third one is I'm helping. I'm helping. And so the content that I share on social media isn't always helpful content. It isn't always business advice. It isn't always strategy. But when it is, it's helpful. And so I think that they are 3 H's that if you apply that in your principles about how you use social media as a business owner, I think it could actually do a big job of really growing the engagement, the reach, and also the results that you generate from your socials. I'm here, I'm human, I'm helping. And if you can confidently say that about your social media, my social media gives off the vibe, it gives the impression, it gives the experience that I'm here, I'm human, and I'm helping. I reckon you can't help but be quite successful with that as a social strategy. Now, remembering socials is a part of your ecosystem. It's a part of your strategy. It is not the primary part of your strategy. And particularly what you're posting on your socials is like a very small percentage of what needs to happen in order for your business to actually grow and succeed. But here, human and helping, I reckon they're really good principles for you to carry into 2026. Now, one of the things that I did mention in this episode was the Imperfect Post Project, the IPP. So if you are listening to this podcast episode before mid-January, you can still join the Heart Centre Business Planning System, and we are doing the Imperfect Post Project together in Q1. You'll be able to join in time. So if you want to come and check that out, I'll put it in the links with the show notes of today's episode at tashcorbin.com/498. And also, I will be doing the Imperfect Post Project in the accelerator towards the end of Q3, I think it is, this year. That one is not locked in terms of dates, but it will likely be in the second half of the year. And the Imperfect Post Project is also included as a recorded bonus inside the Takeoff program. So there are 3 ways that you can do the IPP with me. The most affordable is to join the planning system. That gets you the Heart Centre Business Planner for 2026, as well as all of our workshops. We have yearly planning, quarterly planning each quarter. Each quarter also has a mid-quarter call, so there's a check-in and usually there's a theme to that call. It includes all the planning tools as well as Biz Planning Boss, which is an 8-module course on how to improve your CEO skills, your skills in implementing your plan, things like reporting, CEO dates. So it's a really thorough CEO skills building course, Biz Planning Boss, that's included in the enrollment in the Heart Centre Business Planning System. And as I said, it also includes the IPP, Imperfect Post Project, in Q1. So I'll have those links for you in the show notes of today's episode at tashcorbin.com/498. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode. I hope that you found it helpful. And until next time, I cannot wait to see you shine. Bye for now.